You gonna start?
I'm gonna try, yeah. I've got my old president, like block captain,
Yeah.
so I'm gonna.
Yeah, so like, I'm pulling for you. Fingers crossed. I know, I usually.
Good evening, everyone. We are live now, so let's go ahead and call this meeting to order. This is our regular meeting. Today is Thursday, May the 22nd, 2025. We are at the Advanced Learning Library here in the downtown Delano district. And the first order of business on today is the approval of our April 24, 2025 minutes from our last meeting.
I'll make a motion.
Okay, it has been moved. Is there a second? It has been moved and seconded. All in favor? Anyone that is opposed? or abstain? Wonderful, our minutes have been approved. Next order of business would have been the training or presentation. There is none today. We'll move into our public agenda. Except otherwise directed by the presiding officer of the meeting, each speaker shall be subject to a limitation of 5 minutes for each presentation with no extension of time period. We see that we do have one individual that has signed up, Jay Colette. If you would like to come to this table here. Thank you so much.
One moment, please. Good afternoon, esteemed members of the Wichita Citizens Review Board. My name is Jay Colette. I was here last month and spoke to this board in an executive session. I'm here today, and I have 5 minutes. It is 5:06, so I have 5 minutes to speak to you, make some public comments. And I wanted to do so today simply to make my own humble contribution to the conversation and to the purpose of the board. Very briefly, I want to say a few words. I have here in my notes the police oath in Kansas, and I would like to read that to this board at this time. And this is, to the best of my knowledge, this is accurate. The police oath in Kansas, and this is the promise that every single person makes the day they officially become a police officer. They hold up their hand and they swear. And this is the oath. On my honor, I will never betray my badge, my integrity, my character, or the public trust. I will always have the courage to hold myself and others accountable for our actions. I will always uphold the Constitution of the United States and of the state of Kansas, my community, and the agency I serve. In order to become a police officer in the state of Kansas, an individual first makes this solemn oath, this promise to the community. Now, I wanted to familiarize this board with that oath because there's a concept contained therein, and I want to say a few words about it. And that is this idea of the public trust. What is that? Well, the concept of public trust relates back to the origins of democratic government and its seminal idea that within the public lies the true power and future of a society. Therefore, whatever trust citizens place in its officials must be respected. Still on time. All right. So, as I said, I came to this board initially Halloween Day of 2023. Just a few days after an incident of what I perceive to be police misconduct, and the Wichita Eagle seemed to agree in its article that it published. Since Halloween Day of 2003, I have been trying to get here to this board in order to discuss that specific police misconduct about which I had back then very recently been trying to accomplish filing as is my protected by the First Amendment, as is my right, filing an official complaint affidavit with the Wichita Police Department Professional Standards Bureau regarding police misconduct. I'm running out of time, and I appreciate it. I only have 5 minutes, but I wanted to, I thank this board for this opportunity to share with you just a few words about the oath, that is the promise, that we expect every single person wearing that badge and uniform to live up to, and the idea of the public trust. What is that? That is, what is this trust that we place This is a job unlike any other. A police officer has the power and the authority to put handcuffs on somebody, to take away their freedom. We can't let just anybody have this job. We require that anybody that has this amount of power over the public, that they be worthy of the public trust. I appreciate the time this board has allowed me to speak, and I think my 5 minutes are up. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Moving to this portion of our business, of our meeting, new business. Those, board members and subcommittee members, one case review will present that today. Let us know, cases you wanna look over, so we can get that notes and.
Okay, so this document, in the agenda is the, we asked last time to have the cases that were, pending that had been requested. And so Captain Cooley presented that, and thank you for putting in the agenda. The subcommittee met, it's Joe and Greg and myself, and since Joe and Greg are not here, yeah, you are, you're right there. I'll speak for you, or speak for Greg. So the, three of us decided that if a current board member brought a case forward, that it was brought forward. Like, we were just gonna immediately approve that. There was not really anything for us to look at. So if you look at the last page where it's, I believe it starts, yeah, the whole last page, those are all brought forward by current board members. So we passed those through. The first page, if you look at what Captain Cooley presented versus what we brought forward, we pulled out not quite half, but a good chunk of them, and we decided to focus on use of force, and the vehicle policy pursuit, and then there was just a few that we didn't understand the summary and we wanted some more information, and so as a subcommittee, we brought forth this, and I would make a motion to approve the slate unless anybody wants to pull one for discussion.
I'll second those.
Right, so a motion has been made to approve the slate of cases that have been pulled by subcommittee. Is that my understanding? Fantastic. Fantastic.
So is this? No. This is the whole list and this is what?
Yes. You can tell which one is ours because it says date subcommittee review is one of the columns. So we'll try to keep that spreadsheet moving forward.
So we're good. Any other clarifying question?
The only comment that I would make is that we enact these points to have had a chance to do that. Word again, but it seemed to us that the ordinance, I would say we were uncomfortable if the case was brought forth by a board member. We as a subcommittee were uncomfortable at this point in saying, no, we're not going to take that any farther, because I think the ordinance, we're trying to find it right now, but it indicates pretty important. Farther than that, but at least we felt like sitting at that point that we were comfortable saying, oh, no, we're gonna not do this one, even though it's from a board member. So I could perceive a situation where a board member says, yeah, I want to look at these 45 cases this month, these 45 cases, that we might change our tune on that. And we'll go to Jennifer and say, okay, what's our flexibility here as a subcommittee and process?
But we did want to make sure that we gave you a solid slate that tied back to the ordinance and had priorities in there that the board had previously discussed. So there's one that says, I put dishonest communication. I didn't, doesn't mean that it is, that's just how we interpreted it. So if, we know that that's an offense that an officer could possibly be fired for, so we wanted to review that one. So that's just based on conversations this board has had about our priorities around use of force, vehicle pursuit policy, and racial profiling. Otherwise, the rest of them were just, we didn't fully understand the amendment. So it may be a quick discussion during executive committee or not, but.
So still with the motion, we've asked some clarifying questions and discussion on that. Motion was to accept the slate that the subcommittee has submitted to us. It has been moved, it has been seconded. We need to have a vote. All in favor of accepting that slate of cases. Aye.
Aye.
There any abstainers or anybody opposed? All right, we want to accept those cases from our subcommittee. All right. Fantastic. You have the list, please. Thank you.
Actually, how that.
Okay.
I can email it. Yeah. Your eyes.
Yep. So if you all want to take a moment to look over our current list, if there's a case that we'd like to pull in this meeting, this is the time to do so. We'll go over those cases that are presented to us.
Ask the three that are about 911, are those internal or external complaints?
Numbers.
25 PSV 1622, 25 PSV 1488, and 25 PSV 1550.
I'm sorry, give it to me again.
Oh, yeah, no worries.
1622.
25 PSV 1488, 25 PSV 1551, and 25 PSV 1622.
And your question is?
Are they internal or external complaints?
The 1622. It reads as external.
Okay.
51 sounds the same. They all read the same. So they're all external.
Well, I guess I'm gonna ask that we pull those three forward then, since, and then maybe the policy around that. Oh, and thank you, there's a fourth apparently, 25 PSV 1077 as well. 77? That's where I'll kind of chat about it. What do you guys think about get all four of those presented together? Maybe? Talk about whatever policy. Four. 1 month.
I'll just say one other comment, and I mentioned this to my fellow subcommittee members. I am still struggling with trying to make these decisions based upon the limited information we have. And I think with the caseload we have, I think we're gonna have to be pretty judicious as we move forward, because we already have we've got the year pretty full, I think, as far as meetings. And so I think we as a group are gonna, I think we're gonna have to be really careful, or vetting too many more load, or we're going to end. I think we've made some progress here, because we were able to eliminate a number of cases, and we kind of gotten away from a bunch of the old cases for the current chief, understanding that there's still some things hanging out there, but that was certainly my feeling looking at it, and I think shared by at least some of the other members. And so I think we should be cautious, not get ourselves too loaded down, unless we decide we're going to meet twice a month, or we're going to have 3 or 4 hour meetings.
Is it still possible to have the subcommittee meet and do executive session, or only the full board?
I don't believe we have authority for the subcommittee. Yes, I'll look at it some more, but I don't know that that's contemplated by the ordinance.
Because that might take some pressure off. If we don't have a job to pull things forward, we could review potential cases.
Well, and when we discuss this, I think there's some discussion about maybe doing this in the next couple of months. You know, again, I'd like to see us not spend all our time reviewing cases. I would also like to see us there may be other ways that, you know, and just thinking out loud very quickly here, you know, where one member of the subcommittee or each member of the board, you know, takes a few cases and, however it would work for, you know, staff. And I'm conscious of the stress on staff with this too. But that, you know, the ethics committee of the bar, when a complaint is filed against a lawyer, generally the chair assigns one lawyer to look at the case and in essence do the investigation. Well, hopefully in our case, most of the investigation is done, but it's still a matter of somebody outside the police department, inside this board, looking at the situation and saying, yeah, this is something the whole board needs to see or not. You know, and of course, we're not all going to agree on that, but at some point you do kind of have to figure out how is the best way to do that efficiently. And, you know, whether that's that member going and meeting with, you know, folks at City Hall, police department to go over the basics and then sit there and go, okay, based upon the criteria the board's given me, I don't think this is something that really, you know, it's kind of an isolated situation. That seems like, you know, not something that we need to look at further. Or, yeah, this is something the whole board needs to take. And again, that's fraught with problems too, because you're having one individual basically being conduct.
Asking them to have a combined.
But if we're going to have all of us sit through each one of these, it's going to take a lot of people time.
I just reiterate that there's 4 911 complaints in 1 month, so that feels indicative of maybe a issue. Maybe it's not even, could be PE, could be 911.
Yeah, that's another issue. You know, and again, that would be something that would probably be pretty obvious pretty quickly.
But we could still make a recommendation, even if it's not the WPD about 911. They have a policy they can approve.
And with that, those four go to the bottom one.
I would think they could go to the bottom of the list. If you guys approve them with one forward.
So we got those 4 cases notated for our further review. Are there any other cases that you want to pay an extra close attention to at this time?
It said use of force, but I'm not gonna include it because it talks about handling a weapon, not specifically use of force against the person, so that's why I'm not. We said that I made a commitment to put all use of force on there, but I will not. It doesn't seem to fall within the same parameters.
Question on 25 PSB 1489, it's on the ones that run lands or horizontal, like landscape versus the portrait. I'm not finding it on the portrait list. Was it an internal or external component?
What's the number?
It was 25 PSB 1489. And it's possible I'm overlooking it.
External.
I'm interested in seeing that and potentially looking at policy and how to do that.
I agree with that. Are you talking about 1489?
Yeah. I mean, probably with somebody who's outside their kid, but gotta get people, but it would be interesting to see the policy and the policy if we follow that. How we can. So I would like to add that.
Seven, 88, 1489, 1551, and 16.
Good. Cases at this time? I'll open the floor to any of our citizen guests who are with us tonight. If you have any comments or questions in regard to the cases, the portfolio that we put in front of you, take this time to offer to you all as well. Thank you so kindly. Meeting moving. Policy discussion. Review and discuss policy 514, arrest and detention of foreign nationals. Review and discuss policy 804, license plate readers.
If I can speak on that, I put that on there incorrectly, the license plate reader. It should have been the flock, gunshot detector, but that policy is not written yet. It's still under review, so.
So I have the add on 514. I'll tell the board that you may review policy 514 by comments and feedback, but due to the dynamic nature of the changing federal guidelines and enforcement priorities, WPD is unable to provide additional discussion. I'll take all your feedback, we'll receive it, we'll file it for consideration. Won't be any discussion. And then
Typically on 514.
yes.
Okay.
And then after I talked to Shanita about 807. 807 is the gunshot policy, sorry. About it still being under review. We feel comfortable enough that I printed that, like we're far enough along that I printed that. So if you guys want to review that, I printed 20 copies because it's not posted online.
So we can look, we can have a discussion as it relates to 514. WPD will offer no other guidance on that because of the fluidity that's coming from Washington. I've kind of been looking at some stuff as well. So we can have a discussion, we can talk as much as you all would like, and they'll take notes. Other than that, we can also look at our gunshot detection 807, if you all would like to discuss that. But we're not going to be looking at the license plate readers today.
We already did that with
Alright.
Captain Moses.
Fantastic.
It's supposed to be good.
Fantastic.
That was
Yeah,
fine.
so that's, okay, so fantastic. So 804 is actually 807 for review, if we're gonna review that today. Right, so as it relates to 514, is there any discussion, any thought processes to that policy?
I brought this.
Go ahead, sir.
I brought this one, so I'll start and recognize and you can't have a discussion about this. I know it's the policy itself is very technical in its direction for WPD and how it interacts with federal immigration. I can't speak very specifically to that, but in broad strokes, I would just say my recommendation sort of rests on what I have heard from community partners, from national immigration rights organizations, that and you could argue before, but the term immigration enforcement is upending policies that, or just not following policies that previously may have treated people more fairly. So I think the broad strokes is to the extent statutorily possible to reduce our contact with federal immigration enforcement, to have WPD be focused on literally anything else, would be sort of where I am coming from in this discussion. I would also then, since we have legal here, I have seen efforts in other states to try and force county and city police officers to enforce federal immigration, and should the state legislature make any attempt to do so, that city of Wichita pursue all available avenues to prevent that, including suing the state should it be necessary. I think I won't speak for everyone in this room, but I don't know how many of us want the state legislature to have a say in WPD's priorities and what they should and should not do. And that's the mind.
I'm interested in what you're seen and heard so far, because obviously we're, other than reading the policy, and we all know this.
My knowledge is elementary at best, but I would say that I believe our police department is doing the best they can to follow what is going on in Washington. That's all I will add in this moment. Not give me on camera to say anything else. It's not gonna happen. Yeah, I don't want to be the guy that was on TV saying something that he shouldn't see. So, okay.
Under 4C, It talks about a federal immigration warrant may be administratively issued. And members of WPD shall not serve, detain, or arrest anyone solely on the civil administrative warrant, which I am under the impression that most of those from ICE are administrative, like civil. So I was happy to read letter C and to know that if there's concerns of the public around those kind of things, we can see right here in the policy it's already addressed.
I think,
Unless it's a criminal warrant, which is a different thing.
I think it's safe to say that if a WPD officer is pulling over someone, I don't feel that they're pulling them over with the desire to kind of turn them over to ICE or because they pull somebody for speeding or drunk driving or something of that nature. I think they're pulling them over strictly for that. Now, I do believe that once that person is pulled over, they run their name, if there's a warrant, something like that, I think they do have to make contact secondary, but I don't think that's their primary focus in that moment. That makes sense.
I did have the general question about if there's a policy in place, so this would be directed, if there's a policy in place, and changes come from the federal government, are they implemented immediately or do you have to change your policy first? Because you should be able to talk about the policy in front of us, because that is what's in place, so. It's the policy.
Yeah, so if we decide to change a policy, that's not as easy as just fixing it, sending it through. It has to be reviewed by law and by the union, and so and then it goes back for revisions. So if something comes up, like a lot of the common stuff we get is with DUI. They may change the number on a form, well, we have that number in policy. So we will do a training bulletin that says, hey, you now have to use form whatever until we can get back to policy and change that in policy. So we don't just send an email of, hey, here's a new law that's coming in July. Please follow it until we get policy. We'll put it in an actual training document.
Other questions or comments as it relates to 514? Right, well, we're gonna take a look at 807.
While he's handing that out, I would like to ask, if possible to, well, I guess I could put it when we do next meeting. But I would like to have, the drone policy. Oh, that is the okay. Oh, I already did.
No, you know what, he does that to me.
I only break rules when I think they're good.
You can, we're just gonna shred them
Okay.
afterwards, so.
You're like, oh, that was hers. I would like to say that I really appreciate WPD's community outreach around this policy. I went to both of the sessions that they had, and it went from a one-page document to a four-page document, and they really took in a lot of feedback from the community. I think it's a very solid policy. I only have a number 4 under C, and I think it's probably the language, saying it, officers must be aware that the gunshot detection system is highly accurate and there's a significant likelihood of active gunfire. Given that serious nature, officer safety remains highest priority. Officers shall employ a safe and strategic approach. I don't disagree with those things. I'm concerned that it could be misconstrued to mean that if there's a gunshot in my neighborhood or multiple shots in my neighborhood, and I'm out on the street or my neighbors are out on the street, that us and our children may not be safe when officers show up thinking it's an active shooter situation. And that's my only concern with the whole policy.
I have a question on this. With the new first responder drones, is that getting tied into this?
To the gunshots. Those will be launched from a different platform, but yes, if there's a gunshot detection in that area, that could possibly be something that we do launch.
I have one question, maybe two. How are the locations selected for this equipment? How did we pick those locations?
I don't have the answer to that.
Fantastic. I mean, that was a good question.
They talk about it in the high tech.
And then
I was like, you were there.
I hosted the meeting. And the second question was, what is the ongoing cost to operate this equipment? Ongoing cost to the city.
I don't know that either.
I mean, that's the second good question. All right, the only reason I ask those questions is because those are the questions that I heard the most at the listening sessions, right? Are we targeting poverty-stricken areas? Are we putting this equipment only in poor areas? Are we putting it in the Black neighborhood? Are we putting it in the poor white neighborhoods, if I can just speak freely? Those are several of the concerns of the community that was at those listening sessions. And the second thing was, how much does it cost the city? You know, how much does it cost the taxpayer dollars? And so that's why I asked those questions, not to be a bonehead, but that's the concern of our community. Man, what is this costing us? And then if it's costing us this amount of money, the policy says it's highly accurate. And so in here, the listening sessions, the equipment is supposed to be able to know the difference between a backfire of a car, a firework. You know what I'm saying? It's supposed to be able to, differentiate that between a gunshot. So that's why I asked those questions. I think those are very important questions that we want to know. And so when an officer's been dispatched, the reason why I feel like is if they can come kind of like, they know the force to come with, right? They know how to arrive. The gunshot detection system picks up a gunshot versus a firecracker.
Well, is there any data on from other communities that have used it as far as of course, you're not always gonna know. You show up and there may have been a gunshot, nobody else heard anything other than what the equipment showed. But is there any data that gives us an indication of the accuracy?
I have not been involved in the purchase or implementation of it, so
I will say,
I don't know any of those answers.
during one of the listening sessions at my church, I can't remember his name, that's kind of doing this, but he was telling me that like they were within 2 feet of a shell casing, like it dispatched them like that close, and I was like, wow, that's crazy. So this thing is supposed to be like highly effective, right? It's supposed to be able to help our officers do a lot more. Yes, sir.
Well, I think that the accuracy of the device is not in question. Its effectiveness in reducing gun violence has had more mixed results in communities that have used similar, where it has had no effect in many others, and then some studies have shown different results in the same city. But the literature is not one.
I think the concern would be, because we had an officer that kind of showed us couldn't keep the map, but he kind of showed it to us. We know that there's gonna be some in our neighborhood or maybe already in our neighborhood, because we have had some gun violence. So I think people just wanted to know if they're out and it goes off, you know, most people are actually gonna go hide, but you know, if you're walking your dog or you're in the park or something, like, are you not gonna be safe if a whole bunch of officers show up? And I said, well, I don't think based on the policy, that's quite how that's gonna work. But I think that we would just wanna make sure that C4 is a little, like, I understand that officer safety is a high priority. I absolutely appreciate that, especially if active gunfire has happened. Just wanna make sure that we're cognizant that just people that live in the area don't feel unsafe. Like they could be detained or they could be harmed in any way. That was the only one I'm concerned about. Otherwise, I think it's a solid policy. They took in the recommendations of other really well-written policies from other communities. I do like your concern about your question about the drones. Maybe that needs to be added to the policy if it's gonna be used for protection. I mean, if it's gonna be sent out as like a first responder to that, I don't know if that would be in the drone policy or if that would be. Yes, there's the first responder and then I don't know what the other ones. Yeah.
Are you asking or wanting to consider potential word changes to number 4 based on how really are you wanting something like due to the nature of a highly accurate gunshot detection, officers should be aware. Like, are you wanting it to read slightly different so it doesn't have what is your recommendation?
Well, it just says, given the serious nature, officer safety is the highest priority.
So your issue is really more the highest priority later in the thing than that officer.
It just gives the vibe that the highest priority is the officer being safe, not that someone could be in danger. That has nothing to do with the situation. That was the concern that was raised to me by my neighbors, so.
I'm pretty sure all the officers would be trained in every scenario. They wouldn't just put this out and not have them trained. They'd look at all scenarios, what could happen, you know. I'm pretty sure that would be all the training that they wouldn't just put it out there and not like, hey, what about this could happen, that could happen.
When I don't know if you're questioning this, but if they're saying officer safety remains the highest priority, does that mean they're gonna stay back even if there's like a hostage situation? You know what I mean? Like,
I think it's the wording actually, remaining vigilant for potential offenders still on the scene or in the vicinity. I think that was the part that was concerning, because if their highest priority is their safety, I don't know how to word it differently. I don't know how to wordsmith it. I'm just raising the concern that people share with me.
It seemed to me that, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, given the serious nature of these incidents, officer safety still remains a high priority. I mean, because we do want our officers to be safe.
Yes, of course.
So, I mean, is that, without saying the highest priority, is it?
Maybe. I didn't ask them specific words that like triggered them. I just know that was the vibe that, so if they show up and I'm in my neighborhood, I didn't shoot the gun, am I gonna be?
And I definitely get that. However, I guess just from one of the first questions as a call taker or some of the first things that I have to do is ensure that the scene is safe for officers to respond, because if the assailant is still there, then they can't respond. So I can understand how officer highest priority reads, but I think if it says it still remains a high priority, it takes off that that's the main priority, but it is a very emphasized priority. I don't know if that changes the effectiveness of it at all.
I think it's more just to share that feedback. You guys can.
Or to the police, this is just reminding their officers that there were active gunshots, please be careful. Is maybe more how I read number 4, because the department has policies to kind of cover themselves and officers. That's why I read it as know what you're responding to.
So the response to one of these is not any different than if they were to call 911. The officers are trained exactly the same, so they're not gonna run in, you know, super hot to one of these. It makes no difference if it's a 911 call or call 911 saying they heard gunshots or the gunshot detection actually going off from a house. So the officers, you know, aren't gonna sit back and let a hostage situation occur. That's, you know, they are going to arrive to the area based on where it is saying it occurred. And, you know, they're not just gonna stop any random person walking down the street because, you know, the shot spotter or the gunshot detection thing went off, and so, you know, this person's in the area. It's not how it works, it's not how the officers will operate. So I think all it's saying is, you know, stay vigilant that, hey, there was an alert that shots did get fired in this area. You know, it's no different than any other drive-by that we have, which we have, you know, many of them every night. And when we respond to the area, we get out, we look for shell casings. Do we find anybody? Do we not find anybody? You know, they don't come in and lights and sirens and all the weapons out or anything. So it's merely just another tool. When someone doesn't call 911, this will alert us in the exact same manner as if someone picks up a phone and says, hey, I'm hearing gunshots outside my house.
I think that was Robert's point, is that this is part of an overall training.
Yeah.
I mean, how many of you have not been on a ride yet? An officer, please, do it quickly. Be on this board. I mean, I've done 4 of them in my career, and every time it's a completely new learning experience. It's interesting. Take a little flashlight, because if not, you'll break your ankles. But other than that, and you know, Sergeant Kimball probably is going to throw something at me here in a minute, but I would encourage you to see him after the meeting and schedule one before it gets too hot. And go out on a Friday, Saturday night on the east side or whatever, and you know,
On the east side.
huh?
Are you picking on the east side?
Whatever, no, I'm just saying, if you go out west on Tuesday at 3 o'clock, you're not gonna see the kinds of things that you have to deal with here. I mean, and you know, you're gonna get some calls, but they're probably not things that are gonna benefit you, as it will benefit you at 2 o'clock in the morning when shots are fired and everybody's driving to try to get there to find out what's going on. And that was my last experience. I mean, so.
So, just for a little bit more clarification, because my mind is blinking on it right now. Now, it says when it's activated, it sends alert via the block safety system web application and through SMS and email when it enabled. Now, is that just to members of the department or?
Correct.
Okay, so I guess how is the neighborhood aware that besides seeing police activity in their neighborhood, how are they aware that something is happening if they're curious to know? Like they want, I mean, because I guess what I'm asking is, you know, people have police scanners because they want to know exactly what's going on and want to listen into it. So in this case, how does the community know what's going on in the crime in their neighborhood? Does that make sense?
You mean like why the police are driving around? Is that what you mean?
Well, in regards to this specifically, like, if I'm walking my dog in a park and I'm pulling up, and there happen to be gunshots right before I pulled up, but I didn't know, like, is there any way that I would know that there is crime happening in my neighborhood based off of, like, will I get a text message from this or anything?
No.
Okay.
Did they mention something about putting information on the transparency? Confusing.
For the drone.
It wasn't the gunshot detector. Cause I remember there were some people from College Hill that kept asking that question. They're like, how would you know?
They said they put stuff on their neighborhood.
On their neighborhood
page.
Facebook page, and I was like, I don't remember if something was going on the transparency portal about that.
That's kind of like, I can see, you know, I kind of can see it going bad if they send an alert out to everybody, hey, they're shooting in your neighborhood.
Right.
Everybody go crazy, you know what I'm saying? So I think that it might not be the best idea.
I was just.
Yeah, I know what you're saying, yeah, absolutely.
Everybody's gonna call 911 for
Like, give me Greg right now.
Give me Junior.
detail.
Hey man, it's so good, I need more information.
I think just on C4, all the others are very informative writing, more step by step. This one moves into narrative, phrases like the serious nature of the incident. So I just find that one weird, like people messed with it for a while or something. I'd say, I don't think you need, given the serious nature. Officer safety, I'd say officer and civilian safety remains the highest priority. Say strategic, I don't know. And if you're gonna say highly accurate, you should give a %. There's no data type to that. Highly accurate.
So this is still pretty fluid, right? We're still working on this. Go ahead, sir.
Sorry.
No,
I
perfect.
wanted to make sure that we were off of C4 before I pivoted something on. For the data records and collection, is this similar to license plate reader where that is the property of WEB? And I think it's harder to use a gunshot detector than it is license plate readers. Nevertheless, if you want to make sure that people's data is protected. So this seems to go through a different entity, or sounds like this. But there are the same restrictions on the sharing of this information with third parties that there is with the license plate reader.
Sharing it with what?
What is third party?
Other agencies, you mean?
I mean, so I think what the concerns I heard, because I only was able to attend one of the community meetings with people are like, is this thing gonna pick up on me while I'm walking my dog under it? Or
You're gonna pick you up while you walk your dog under?
like if you're talking to your friends.
No, it's just detect gunshots.
Right, and that's not. That was all.
Can this detect a gunshot in a building?
I don't know that. I don't know how sensitive, will it detect it in the house?
I know this is still in the progress, process, but, is there any steps to communicate with the community about the effectiveness of it? Like, what's the timeline there after it gets released? Is there any postings or communication?
I don't know.
They talked about that during our meeting, how they're gonna be gathering metrics, but how that's reported, I imagine it'll be for the real time information
So,
center.
Yeah, all this will go through the real time.
We get a report, like we
Oh,
report.
you can ask for one.
Just be like, hey, we've had this for a year, can we get a readout on it?
Especially if the data is being collected, that's just one side.
If we can remind ourselves to ask for it in a year, I would love to do that. Josh is gonna take that.
It's gonna stick up there.
I can throw it in the strategic plan that we're developing, with all the on the notes.
Has everybody seen has everybody heard the presentation about 807? If you want to see like the actual presentation, I've been the chief, and they've invited me to have a small group discussion and take a small group, and they're gonna take us to the real time crime center and everything like that. So actually, I'm just kind of putting together a date as we speak to be able to go and have this presentation again, kind of broken down a little bit further in a small group. So if that's something you guys are interested in, let me.
807,
Yeah, that's what it is, right? 807.
The one we just
Let me
released.
look at it down.
804?
807.
Oh, 807, that's why it's not here.
You good? So that's something you guys want to get that information firsthand. We can do that. You just kind of let me know, and then we'll be able to see the real time crime center. I haven't seen it. I thought you had privilege. Okay, my bad. Yeah, I mean, we good. Okay. So
Can you send an email with the date?
Oh, he wants to go to.
is it okay if I send an email with the thing? You can't have, can't have private meetings and stuff to get in trouble.
That's right.
You're teasing, but I'm being for real. I don't want to get, I don't want to get in trouble. I don't want to get in trouble. I don't want to get in trouble for anything, you understand? So, I like ride alongs, I just don't like being in the back of the car when I ride along. You missed it.
I got you.
You missed it.
It took me a second. You did a little over, a little slower, but I did pick up.
Go ahead.
In addition to, emailing that last one, is it possible to connect with, so I know that there's 4 locations where this is being piloted, are you able to connect with like neighborhood associations or somebody in that community, make sure that they're able to see the practice, or so they can ensure their neighbors, this is what's happening?
I don't know. It's out of the pilot. It's already approved. Sure, the gunshot detection is no longer in pilot. It's been approved by city council to move forward. Yes.
In the affected area where, because these aren't citywide, I understand correct. So in the areas where these are, to have folks from the community at that as well, so they can, because we get we get a lot of news word of mouth, they can talk to their neighbors about it too and sort of demystify it a little bit.
So this was a request from me to the chief, and so I'm sure I can add.
That's what I'm.
It would be a good thing for the
I don't know.
community policing officer to talk about
And
their
that-
neighborhood
and that-
association, because ours specifically talked about that at ours.
Yeah.
They're like, this is the hotspot for now, this might not be the hotspot forever.
Yeah.
And while we're still on policies, I would like to ask the board if it's okay next month that we review the drone policy. Is that okay with you guys?
Huh?
Review the drone policy next month, can we put on that on the agenda?
Whatever you want.
Which does have a transparency portal, by the way, you can see when the drone gets implemented, right, gets deployed, thank you.
Fantastic. If we have nothing else on.
Mr. Chair, I rise to the point of order. Is it the intention of this board to deny the public an opportunity to comment on this agenda item?
No, my apologies.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for keeping me on track, sir.
The team effort.
Yeah.
If I haven't had a chance to mention to each and every one of you, I love you guys. You're the voice of the people in this. It is a team effort. We work together on these things. And I understand all perfect human beings in the room stand. Oh, okay, just making sure. That would be mean too. I'm not perfect. But I do want to object to significant changes to the agenda being made after the meeting is commenced. The agenda, as published, was talking about 804, here we are talking about 807. I had to completely rewrite my stuff. I had plans, but I didn't quite have them ready because the agenda wasn't set right. It's human error, I'm okay with that, but I strongly encourage you to change your agenda format. Item number 1, approval of the agenda. And once it's set at the beginning of the meeting, that's the way it says. There should have been communication going on beforehand of, oh, we're going to change your agenda item. That should have been done a day or two ago, or even 2 minutes before the meeting, not as the meeting's going on. Do better on that. Secondly, my public comments about 804, which most of you were here to hear. Oh wait, those got censored. They didn't make it into minutes, and I emailed it to every single one of you. And the minutes have now been approved, and my comments, which were sent to each and every single one of you, have now disappeared into the memory hole. Welcome to 1984. I'll let you guys figure out how that happened. But I'm emailing them all to you again in about 5 minutes so you can review them as we think about 804. Now moving on to the agenda item on the table, 807. I think we've got some good opportunities for data collection on this to find out, is it worth our money? Because what some of you may not have realized was back in wasn't too long ago, 2018, there we go. 2018, we already had a pilot project with a different vendor. And it was started in December 2018. There's supposed to be a public report of how well did this system fare. Oh, what's that you hear? No public report has ever been published on that 2018 project. How did it work? How do we know how the pilot project worked on this? There's been no published report. We've got to do better on that. We've got to have this data to find out if it's worth the money we're paying for it. Specifically, I think there should be an annual basis of how many GDS occurred in a given calendar year. Let's say it's 2025. How many did we have come up in 2024? I don't think that's going to affect any ongoing investigation or we're going to have anything sensitive. Let's just go, how many were there? Where were they? Can we get a map that's published, let's say 6 months? We don't want people calling the next day, hey, did you see how many gunshots went off last night? But 6 months later, it may be an opportunity for a neighborhood association to go, I've got some issues in this area. Maybe we can work together with community policing on those types of things. How many GDS, how many times in a calendar year were these systems completely suspended because they told us this could happen due to holiday fireworks or other reasons? The system can't get just turned off because it gets overwhelmed. Somebody in charge makes the decision of, we'll turn it off for a while. We ought to know when, why that happens. How many GDS alerts did tie into recovered shell casings? That's an important metric to know this system is working for us. Or, well, it told us there were some out there, we went out there and we couldn't find any. How many times were stolen firearms recovered due to this system? Good metric to have. How many times did this system help tie in to an arrest? That could help us out on a lot of things. How many times were detailed GSD forensic reports presented in a court of law? That's important to us. How many times did we alert on these things and then later find out, uh-oh, that was the car backfiring, NORA 4. It's in the policy. We should have a statistical at the end of the year, how many times did it get it wrong? Now, one of the officers working on this project, he says every time it gets wrong, he feeds it back to the computer people and they use that to train the AI so that it gets smarter for next time. I would hope to see that false alarm rate get smaller year over year over year. But if it's not reported, if it's not measured, how do we know if it's getting better or getting worse? Then I mentioned earlier about how that public pilot that was done in 2018 never made it to the public. And the sensor locations were initially not published for that because they didn't want to skew the results of the test. Okay, the test is over. It's been 7 years. Where's our report? And then I'm gonna echo comments made earlier that as we, city council this last Tuesday just approved first responder drones. I think there's a couple of things that the public would want to weigh in on that, but it's important to have a policy on that once the plans are ready. Would sit for any comments or questions? Appreciate you guys.
Thank you for bringing up the minutes. We'll make sure that gets amended for the next meeting.
We're on 8:07 for that. All right, let's move on. Subcommittee and ad hoc committee updates.
We already did ours.
Okay.
So looking at the strategic plan, what the current thought is taking, I think it's 6 different charges based on the city of Wichita's development of this board and looking at action items to meet each of those. Number 1 and number 4 seem like they tie in together. Number 1 is assist with community engagement, and then number 4 ends up being community engagement and racial profiling together. You guys have taken a look at the chart of these stats. So our current recommendation, and I'm not sure how to get that out to everybody, maybe I should send it to Wichita, is kind of an item with that charge and then like a couple action bullet points. The one takeaway that we have that we feel is mostly ready to go is a PowerPoint that was developed and then a speech to accompany that. And if the members that were appointed by city council or DAB could try annually to go to their DAB and discuss this board to get it out in front of the community. That's one way that we can assist with community engagement. There may be other opportunities for those that were appointed by the city manager. I think the other people were appointed to this board that might be able to take that same PowerPoint. So I don't know if you guys want me to bring that to you and give it to you one day.
Yeah, and I think the public forum open discussion for the community, we can all figure out where we live and what the neighborhood, this is something we went to the leadership conference. There's a lot of neighborhood associations and those people may never go to a DAB. You could easily go to one of their meetings, just let them know that someone from CRB would be happy to speak at your meeting because they're always looking for guests as well. But that's another great way to get to the like lowest level of the community. DABs are great, but I think neighborhood associations and HOAs would be a really great way to, they may not even know what we do or anything about us. Thank you so much for this spreadsheet. It's really good.
So it was sent to the task force and I didn't send it to Ms. Rice to send out. But I kind of wanted your feedback and if there were any points or things that you guys wanted to see us take forward. I think community engagement is probably one of the areas we lack the most in at this point with that one. We do really well, maybe overabundance of the reviews of the different items. That's what we spend most of our meetings. So I'd like to see us work on some stuff, right? I also thought about asking like police officers, like, is there a way that we can help with what they need? If they're doing any engagement or outreach, be there at those events alongside the police officers. That was just my thoughts and how to discuss them. You guys.
I had just brought up that point. I think in order to engage with community outreach, I'm not on Facebook as much as I'd like, or what do you like to be? But that's where the police department or social media, I guess, primarily promotes their stuff. But I mean, even if we got an email from a member of the police department letting us know, like, hey, this is coming up, I think that would help us as board members to show a presence at the at those events to increase community engagement. So
I just want to make sure the board felt comfortable making moving forward kind of more community engagement.
Absolutely.
I mean, I think the only way that we can represent the community is to get their feedback, otherwise it's just their own personal.
So if everybody would be willing to think about that commitment, where could you go and do this presentation, if you guys approve it? I think your communities where you work, communities you're involved in, homeowner associations.
On that note, can we ensure that the part of that presentation, this came up in our subcommittee meeting, we wanted to ensure that city and WPD and the board and the community all understand what the complainant and the messaging and purpose around the CRB, because we've already learned there's a lot of confusion around what it is that we actually do, especially based on the emails poor Greg keeps getting. Not everyone really understands, so maybe that, as we craft that messaging, make sure that the information going out from the board on our CRB page, information wherever else it's housed with WPD, and whatever we say to the community is all the same message. I really like that.
The one that I have developed, and I didn't send it, so I don't know if you guys want me to log into Google, my personal Google Drive and show it. If you want to put it on the meeting for next month to do. It's a quick 5 minutes, like how were we developed? How do you contact us? What's the makeup of the board?
Right.
And so it might be interesting, like maybe we can do something with like more detail, like a quick version and then more detail. I think that would be a good option to add in there.
Maybe we could have the email, not just be people submitting complaints, but people requesting a board member at an event as well.
Huh?
Cause we just give that to Win, which independent neighborhoods, and they could just say, hey, somebody needs you in West Wichita, and if one of us lives in West Wichita, we could go to that.
For the next month, I'll do presentation, show you guys what that is, well, it's out to everybody.
On the,
Strategic plan. the
get
draft
that on
plan.
the, agenda for next month.
If we want to flag in our minutes to the last meeting, we had Ray Giglio. As well as traffic safety strategy report and racial profiling report to June as well.
Unless we get those reports ahead of time to review and we just discuss it, is that possible?
I had the Brady views in July.
Oh, July for Brady Giglio.
And we're doing those next month.
But the racial profiling report, can we get that ahead of time to review before the meeting, so we don't have to spend time reading it?
Traffic strategy and racial profiling in July.
Oh,
So
July,
it's not
okay.
due June.
So the minutes have it marked as June, so I was under the impression we were.
You're forward whenever you want to do it. I'll tell you that the case that was supposed to be reviewed today is Laura, the other one that you guys already had scheduled. You know, we continued the one from last month. It's large, so that's why there's no way it's gonna be done tonight. There's also gonna be a speaker coming in for that, so whenever that case decides to be heard in executive session, it's gonna need an hour, it's gonna need some significant time, so.
The chair and I will sit down and make a schedule of all the things that we've talked about, whether it's policies, cases, we can look at like the next 3 months, we can get set up. That way, if it's the minutes were right or wrong, doesn't matter, we'll just make sure all of the concerns will get on an agenda and you get plenty of notification. And you get plenty of notification.
Okay.
If nothing else from our subcommittee and our ad hoc committees, we move into our executive session.
I'm sorry, Jared, before we
Go ahead, sir.
So what's on the agenda for next month?
We're gonna. I think what it's supposed to be is one case, a policy report,
And step.
and strategic plan.
For next month. Okay, so is that like, are you two discussing it, or is that what we're?
Well, we are gonna discuss it, but we're gonna send you the next 90 days, so you won't have to guess.
So will you get this sent out to the
When you two give me feedback, I'll tidy it up and send it out to everybody so I can discuss it next month.
Actually, that would probably just go on the webpage, I imagine.
It's here.
Are we good? So, as we go into executive session, I move that the Citizens Review Board recess into executive sessions for 30 minutes. To review information related to PSB cases.
Yes. Is it the same thing?
20 PSB 4821, 22 PSB 3759, 23 PSB 5605, 23 PSB 5774, 23 PSB 5775, and 23 PSB 6557. To discuss personal matters and non-related personnel, protect the conflict of interest of identifiable individuals. We will return in 30 minutes. That will be 6:43. Executive session.
No.
Vote.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So you have volume. And open. Fantastic.
Oh, well, when you park.
All right, we need to make a motion to extend our executive session. So again, I move that the Citizens Review Board recess into executive session for an additional, we're going 10 minutes? 16 minutes till 7 o'clock p.m. To review information relating to PSB cases, 20 PSB 4821, 22 PSB 3759, 23 PSB 5605, 23 PSB 5774, 23 PSB 5775, 23 PSB 6557, to discuss personal matters of non-elected personnel and to protect the privacy and interests of identifiable individuals.
Second.
Aye. All in favor?
Aye.
Back in executive session. All right, operator. We got a lot of things, I ain't perfect.
I think we're great, perfect, can't take away.
Huh?
On. Tree, can you get in the door? Yeah.
Heat on his plate this time.
A little chilly, isn't it?
I was gonna say, if I'm not hot, then you guys are freezing.
Yeah, well, you were using the fan earlier, I'm like, oh, it's so sweet. I'm gonna take this.
That's
I have a
right.
jacket.
No, no, Brandon.
Better remember.
Menopause adjacent.
The difference.
Locker or?
Yeah, there's one of them never,
Oh, yeah.
Do we need to, I don't know, should we send a meeting for another time?
Mike, so. Oh, calling meeting back to order. We're back in public session. Our vice chair will be taking over this part of the meeting.
So we did review all these cases and our recommended action at this time is to take no action because they adjusted their procedural intake for complaints and that has already been completed and the involved officer in the complaint has also been addressed. So at this time, the Citizen Review Board will not be taking action. We did provide feedback and will be receiving. I don't think we need to make a motion, do we?
No.
Okay.
Right.
No much.
All right, any comments from our board members?
I guess the only thing I would suggest is that maybe the minutes reflect which you said that the officer, repeat that once.
That the
Officer involved.
the involved officer in the complaint has been addressed.
And specify what complaint we're talking about. Like one more than one officer involved.
5774.
I think that should be reflected,
Okay.
not that they're gonna identify, but just so that it's clear that that's the incident.
And that the procedures around the intake of complaints has been adjusted.
Ready to adjourn?
Any board member comments?
One last thing, while you guys are looking at the agenda for the next couple of years.
Oh, yeah.
It came up in our advisory board, this is risk terrain modeling. But I think there's a 1 month period to that. Risk terrain modeling. Risk terrain. I think it's a 3 month trial, I'd love to get the reports of that.
And I would encourage all of you to go to the transparency page because they have a risk terrain modeling presentation on their PowerPoint. So before we discuss or put it on the agenda, all of us can still look at it without the meeting. But we can still.
Chair, before you adjourn, to address what was brought forward, can we just get a one more time a glimpse of what maybe June and possibly July might look like? I know they won't be finalized, but just so that we hold ourselves accountable of keeping to what we said we were going to, so there's no confusion of what's on the agenda not matching with what we actually go over. It's real good.
So June is going to be one case, because your tell it's lengthy, okay. One case for executive session, the racial profiling board report, the training.
Is Dante coming next week? I don't know, you mentioned it last week. Again. Okay.
Stephanie's.
We'll get this.
Stephanie's.
And then Stephanie's, but there was some sort of training. I don't know, what was on the agenda?
Drone
Brady
policy.
Giglio.
I had.
Drone policy
Strong policy.
and Brady.
That's in July.
Brady Giglio is July, thank
We're
you.
also doing voting in June.
We're doing-
Oh, and
Election
selecting
officers.
officers in June. So that's a lot.
So, which case are we reviewing? Did we select the case?
Yeah, a case was already selected. I know,
Oh, this was before I got here?
no, a case was selected last month.
I believe it's the one that ends in 5249.
Thank you. 5249. And then we will do hopefully a good job of planning out July, August, September.
Any other questions or comments? You're good. That was gonna be my next thing before I adjourn. Okay, our next meeting will be, is that June 26th, the last Thursday of the month? Is that June 26th, I believe?
Yes.
Yes. 5 o'clock still working good for everybody? We still gonna stay in the library? We're good to be at the library again? Still here at the Advanced Learning Library, 5 o'clock on, 26 June 2025. Yeah.
Do we want to mentally prepare ourselves to potentially be here longer next month, looking at a 1 hour meeting, racial profiling? Some policy.
Today's meeting was 5 to 7, so we might prepare to be here till 5, so 7:30, I have no idea, but 7:30 probably would be a good frame of thinking, you know, so we can plan around that, maybe,
Get caught.
maybe an additional 30 minutes, if that's agreeable with everybody. Just so we can, you know, we can try to stay above. Do we need to make that into a formal motion?
No.
No, perfect, good. Motion to adjourn, all in favor? Any opposed?